welcome to Oh the Horror. I'm Fedora, and this place is now a bunker. The White House isn't this protected. There is no way that any ghosts are going to get in here and destroy my house a second time.
Hey, Fedora.
Freeze!
Whoa, hey, take it easy there, killer. It's just me, your old pal Bob Show, remember? We were scheduled to do that crossover review. Are we still gonna do that?
Oh, yeah. Sorry, man, you just surprised me. Things have been a little tense around here recently.
Yeah, I've noticed. And I've been thinking about that, actually. Now, I've been collecting some of the worst movies and comic books of all time. And I got to thinking, if I can trap bad movies and comics, why couldn't I trap this ghost thing that's been stalking you? Close your eyes, man. This might get funky. Hang on a minute. How's this thing supposed to work?
You didn't really think that was going to work through a camera, did you?
It was worth a shot. I mean, hey, you were just trying to shoot me through the camera a minute ago.
Good point. Well, anyway, all this pointing guns and panic at people has gotten me in the mood to talk about America.
Ah, so it's subtlety you're going for today. Nice.
Today, we're going to talk about a B-rated 90s slasher movie that proves you don't need to be alive to worship the red, white and blue and butcher those who don't. This is 1997's Uncle Sam.
And the fact that this was made in the 90s can't be overemphasized. Not only does it look more like it was made in the 80s, but a movie about a serial killer Uncle Sam during a time when nothing all that controversial was going on with the US government? I don't know, it seems more like it would be more at home in the early 2000s as the War on Terror was getting started.
So, this movie starts in the most American of places, the Middle East, as a major and his subordinate arrive at a site of a military plane crash to determine exactly what happened.
The major here is played by William Smith. No, not that one. This William Smith never quite reached that level of fame, probably because of his voice that sounds like he swallowed a cheese grater.
I don't want to hear that crap.
But he doesn't get much time to use it, as a few seconds later both he and his sergeant are gunned down by one of the corpses in the plane, revealed to be Master Sergeant Sam Harper.
Don't be afraid. It's only friendly fire.
Shooting off one-liners even on one's own deathbed. The sign of a true slasher villain.
And no, how this guy managed to kill the major despite looking like beef jerky is never explained. After an opening credit sequence made up of nothing but stock footage, Ed Wood would be so proud. We cut to Twin Rivers, USA, where we meet Sam's ex-wife Louise, who has delivered the sad news about her husband's demise. We also meet Sam's sister Sally, along with her son, Jody.
Wait, he's an uncle who's actually named Sam? Just goes to show, the classic comic book mistake. If your name sounds like anything, you're bound to turn into Dr. Octopus.
Guy named Otto Octavius winds up with 8 limbs. What are the odds?
And finally, let's get introduced to the celebrity punching bag of today's flick.
Sergeant Jed Crowley reporting his order. Hello there, children!
Hey, Chef.
We'll see some more of Isaac Hayes later. But right now, it's morning at the Harper house, and while Sally and Louise talk about Sam's body coming home for burial, we get the distinct impression he wasn't the most charming of gentlemen while he was alive. Jody, meanwhile, is in school, also letting his classmates know all the gory details.
How'd the guy get killed? He was a gunner in a chopper that got shut down. But there was a lot of talk that it might have been us that did it.
And I don't know exactly what the Army says to you when they report that your loved one was killed in combat, but would they explicitly point out how friendly fire might be involved? I guess we don't need you anymore, Julian Assange.
When I'm grown up, I'm going in the Army. Just like Sam did. And I'll do whatever the president says to do. 'cause he knows better.
Just a reminder, folks, Clinton was the president when this movie was released. Oh, but Jody's unrealistic sense of patriotism doesn't stop there. Apparently, he's not fond of his teacher running away to Canada to avoid being drafted during the Vietnam War, nor of his mother's new boyfriend, Ralph, who uses his lawyerly powers to dodge taxes.
We just wear them out by burying them in tons of paper.
You mean you cheated them?
Jody?
Yes, because this kid has lived such a long and experienced life, he feels he has the right to place judgment on these people.
Not to mention, it would be really easy for the boyfriend to compare himself to the Founding Fathers, who also didn't like the taxes that were imposed on them at the time. And what kind of hippie-turned-teacher wouldn't take this opportunity to start lecturing about how wrong the war was, and how he and his fellow hippies were in the right to just up and leave? Jody says that his Uncle Sam would call this teacher a coward, and him backing down from an argument with a 10-year-old only proves him right.
And the High and Mighty Act doesn't just stop with them, his family also gets a little themselves.
You're very proud of him, aren't you?
He was the only one around here who ever did anything important.
Wow, kid. Maybe you should ask your mum and aunt to leave the room before you call their lives totally meaningless.
After Jody fantasizes about G.I. Joe running over Ralph with a tank, because that's not psychotic, is it? We then cut to Uncle Sam's funeral the next day, when Isaac Hayes introduces himself as Jeb, an old friend of Sam's who fought alongside him.
It won't hurt me. Go on.
I heard it got blown right off.
Landmine. What else did they tell you?
Nothing.
Yes, they did. But it wasn't so. Otherwise, how'd I get to be a father? Or a grandfather? No. All those other parts made it back just fine.
Good thing, too. Otherwise, his most famous contribution to South Park wouldn't make a whole lot of sense.
Say, everybody haven't seen my balls. They're big and salty and brown.
Oh yeah, and this older gentleman is bringing up the condition of his junk to a small boy. I know they repealed Don't Ask, Don't Tell, but is there anything that we can still do about this kind of thing?
Once again, Jody thinks he knows best when he starts arguing with Jeb about being a soldier when he grows up. But Jeb finally manages to shut that little idiot up with these morbid words.
There are no heroes. Only crazy men who lose their mind in the middle of a battle. Every sane person's got his head down, trying to stay alive. But one lunatic runs out there, out of control, crazy full of hate, and if by some miracle he doesn't die, they pin a ribbon on him.
And do these wise words of someone who's actually experienced the atrocities of war make him see any sense?
Anybody badmouths this country, you go right after them, no matter how big they are. People who don't respect the American way of life deserve to have their butts kicked.
All those people who think that they've got the right to make whatever decisions they want and live whatever life choices they want in a land that prides itself on the freedom of speech, all those people need to die! Seriously, why is it that every movie we review ends up involving some stupid little kid?
I don't know. But maybe it's a sign. Maybe these movies are trying to subconsciously tell us that you and I should review Beware, Children at Play.
Can you promise that Jody would be horribly slaughtered too, just like all the other kids in that movie?
Not exactly.
Sorry, no sale.
But this little wish, combined with Sam's commie senses picking up some teens burning an American flag in a military graveyard, are enough to awaken the zombie. But before we see him take action, he's got to get the Uncle Sam outfit first. So where is it?
Why, it's being worn by a peeping Tom on stilts, of course.
Well, this is a slasher movie. I think people would feel cheated if there wasn't at least one pervert.
So Sam channels the worst bits of Edward Scissorhands and slashes the perv's face with some garden shears. After stealing his costume, and apparently trimming down the pants a bit before taking them off his victim, he then heads to the graveyard to get the flag-burning teens, who are now throwing beer cans into Sam's future grave.
Bastards! Don't you know he only drinks port?
Yeah, agree or disagree with flag burning as a legitimate means of free speech all you want, but these little punks just need to die.
One of the teens obviously separates from his group to take a leak, and he is immediately set upon by Sam, who manages to spray paint the camera long enough for the editor to place the teenager into Sam's grave and break his leg for good measure.
Are you sure it's broken? Or did he just drop a slushie onto his pants?
Sam then buries the teen alive, and when his friend comes back to look for him, he is quickly strung up by the throat on a flagpole. Because it's symbolic.
Nah, symbolic or not, at least it's kind of funny. The next morning comes, and the town goes all out for its 4th of July celebration, complete with rides, cosplaying, real firearms. What could possibly go wrong here?
Okay, I can understand the flag burners, but why did Sam kill the teacher? I mean, how did he know he was anti-war?
The subject of draft dodging is a subject of debate too deep to get into right now, but at least he was more subtle about it than this moron.
What's up, her?
They will at the twilight last
This bowl of sunshine meets his messy end during a sack race, where he figures that jumping down a massively steep hill is a good idea for a shortcut. Right before Sam gives his head a shortcut to the ground.
The festivities come to a halt when Sally discovers that Ralph, who was playing Honest Abe Lincoln, is now dead with a bullet in his brain. And I gotta say, kudos to Sam there for making it such a clean kill. Every time I shoot somebody in the head, it looks like a Gallagher stand-up. You should probably ignore that.
Yeah.
Oh, and of course, Jody is right there to comfort his mother in her time of loss.
Why would anybody try to hurt Ralph? He was so harmless.
I know why. He was a crook.
Jody, just be quiet.
Okay, fine. Let's do the democratic thing here, shall we? Let's put it to a vote. All those in favour of just giving this kid what he wants and sending him away to an active war zone.
Second.
All in favour?
All opposed? Nay.
That's the American way.
Sally and Louise finally make that little shit swallow his words when they tell him straight out that Sam was an evil, twisted control freak.
While that's going on, they put on their fireworks display, with a corrupt congressman as the centerpiece.
Jody, along with Jeb and a blind wheelchair-bound boy named Brian, escape the festival and go off to look for Sam. Yeah, because for some reason in this earlier scene when Sam talked to Brian for less than a minute, Brian just suddenly knew straight away that Sam was back from the dead, and he was easily able to convince both Jody and Jeb of this.
Hey, it makes perfect sense to me. This kid is clearly the little psychic girl from the Langoliers. They arrive at Louise's house, where they suspect Sam will head next, for some reason. He eventually does show up, and Jeb hurries off to find a bigger gun. Jody, doing something noble for the first time in this entire movie, stays behind to distract Sam until Jeb returns with a cannon and blasts the killer zombie into star-spangled smithereens.
Oh, dude, I hope this guy's got asteroid insurance, because he is so bold.
And so this movie comes to an end, with Jody having learnt his lesson that war is not a game, and burning all of his army toys. Yet we still end on this slightly eerie atmosphere.
Oh my god. First he was a flag-waving warmonger, now he's gonna grow up to think that the best way to end war is to burn Washington to the ground!
And that was Uncle Sam.
This movie while gimmicky, was actually pretty good. I mean, yeah, it has some problems. It's hardly an original story for one. It's strangely paced with the first half dragging on while the action-packed second half just rushes by at the speed of light. And of course, Jodie. But on the pluses, the visuals were really good with the makeup effects on both the victims and on Sam himself. And for a low-budget, forgettable slasher movie, it actually has a pretty honourable message to it.
I wouldn't call this a good movie, exactly, but it could have been a lot worse. There were a lot of opportunities for this movie to take a stab at America itself, because American movies love doing that for some reason, but it seems to be more along the same mentality that Mark Twain had. Patriotism is supporting your country all the time, and your government when it deserves it. Since this particular Uncle Sam was just some psycho instead of being a subversive twist on American ideals or the typical American soldier, it's pretty harmless as a concept.
Overall, I would say this movie was an undiscovered gem of 90s horror, and it's a shame it didn't get more recognition.
Although if it did, we know where that would inevitably lead.
Coming summer 2015. Uncle Sam 7. 80 and severed heads ago.
Could be worse. At least he didn't blow up a major metropolitan city just to push his own comic book.
My God, you are such a nerd.
Why, yes. Yes, I am.
Well, anyway, that's all we have time for on the show tonight, so I'm Fedora, this is the Horror, save a screen for me, and we'll see you next time.
Oh, Captain Lee, you're such a special woman to me. How I'd love to lay you down and lick every inch of your body with my tongue. Captain Lee, you're my sexual fantasy. How about you and me get it together and make sweet